It is Thursday, February the 6th, 2025. My name is Carlos Whittaker. You're listening to the Carlos Whittaker Podcast, and this is episode 1 of Human School. Today, we're starting something different. Are you excited? I'm excited. Does the music give you the feels? Because I'm feeling all sorts of things. I'm feeling A, excited that there's something new coming. B, I'm excited that the something new is something we've been working on as a team for a long time. And C, I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have today with an extraordinary, ordinary human being named Anne. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're going to be doing on Human School. Hopefully you heard the trailer, but I basically want this, it's not an experiment, but I want this podcast and in the new form, in the new shape, to simply do one thing: help us all become more curious. And so that's what we're going to do today. We are going to be having conversations with very fascinating individuals. And I need to let you know from Jump Street, from the very beginning, I'm still looking for conversations with some of you that have like jaw-dropping, whoa, that's incredible stories. And again, I say that with the caveat that we all have stories of pain that lead to purpose. And I'm so honored that so many of you have that story. I have that story. That's not necessarily the stories I'm looking for. I'm looking more for stories that leave the listener's jaws just hanging open going, I had no idea. This is incredible. So again, like, are you a librarian by day and you fight crime by night? Are you a librarian by day and you've in a public library and you meet the most fascinating people? I'm looking for the most extraordinary, ordinary stories. So if that's you, you can listen or you can figure that out. Help me figure that out. In the show notes, there will be a link to an application where you can apply to possibly be a guest on the show. Today, we are going to have a conversation with Anne Kilty. Anne Kilty was a Donut Dolly. Donut Dolly, which is third generation of a Red Cross worker that served coffee and donuts on the front lines of both World Wars and the Korean War. But in the Vietnam War, her job was to be the shining example of girlhood and womanhood to the GIs. I'm not kidding you when I tell you that this is one of my favorite conversations I've ever had. I just leaned in and I was curious. And so today, hey, let's lean into Anne's story. I don't want to ruin the interview. She's going to tell you so many incredible things. And I feel like this lesson 1 of Human School is going to be exactly what we need. So, friends and fam, please welcome Anne Kilty. Okay, so I am sitting across from, not really across from because we're thousands of miles away, but thanks to modern technology, I get to hang out with my new friend, Anne. And Anne is the subject matter of today's Human School, of today's bit of curiosity. Anne, first and foremost, I would just love for you to introduce yourself, let people know where you live, kind of what you're all about these days.
Okay. My name is Anne Mitchell Kilty, and I live in beautiful, beautiful Aptos, California, which is just south by Santa Cruz, Monterey, just south of San Francisco on the coast. So unlike the rest of the country, I'm looking out at blue skies and 60 degrees, which is tough on everybody else because my family's in Nashville and Michigan. So they don't speak to me a lot just because of that. So, but yeah, I'm very lucky to live in a beautiful, beautiful place.
That is amazing. You know, you live in a beautiful, beautiful place, but you've lived a lot of places. You have, and when I say lived, I mean just experienced life in a lot of places. And what I want to really kind of lean into first and foremost, you know, I never ask people to tell their age, but I think it is very important for the sake of this conversation for people to understand. So let everybody know how old you are.
I am a gorgeous 75 years old.
Yes, you are a gorgeous. And I mean, have we like done something special to our hair today? Like are we?
Well, it was looking better before we put the headphones on here. So
it looks good. Everything is just looking fantastic. So when she says, if you're just listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you're missing out on the beauty that she's talking about. So I am sitting across from a gorgeous 75-year-old who, what captivated me is there was a phrase that you first talked about when we were looking for people for the podcast, and it was a Donut Dolly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what in the world is a Donut Dolly? And there was something in my elementary school brain that remembered hearing that term. And then I was like, well, this is actually what Anne was, a Donut Dolly. So Anne, first and foremost, tell us what a Donut Dolly is.
Well, a Donut Dolly is a third generation of a Red Cross worker, started in the First World War, that literally served on the front lines coffee and donuts, as they did in the Second World War and in Korea. During Vietnam, the term stayed, it's SRAO, Supplemental Recreational Activities Overseas, was the proper term. And our job was not to serve coffee and donuts. I don't think I served some Kool-Aid, but that was about it. And I worked in Vietnam from November 70 to November 71.
Okay.
The war was beginning to wind down a little bit. And my job was to be a shining example of American girlhood, womanhood, to GIs, just a sort of a morale booster. And that was our job. So I would most days get up about 4 a.m. and get onto a Huey helicopter along with a colleague and go out to the fire bases and play games. And we created games, and they'd be about football or, I don't know, current events or the military or something. And it was an hour of not thinking about the war. It was an hour of distraction. And that was my job.
That was your job. Okay, so I feel like just the 2 minutes you unpack that, there's probably so much lived life that happens there. Okay, you're getting in these helicopters.
Mm-hmm.
You're flying in Vietnam. Were you nervous? Were you scared? Did that ever kind of enter your experience out there?
The helicopters were a kick, I got to tell you. As a matter of fact, right now I'm still looking. They offer Huey rides around the country, and I'm looking for one because just that
really?
experience is,
yeah,
just riding in a helicopter, doors off, just is really, really very special. So I didn't usually get afraid in a chopper. We took incoming sometimes to our where we lived, and so they taught you took your mattress and you rolled it on top of your head so that the shrapnel would not get to you. But so those times were a little tough. A couple of times in the Huey, I could see tracer bullets from the ground. So, but the pilots were just phenomenal, and they kept us safe.
Wow, that's so good. What was your first experience or impression? Maybe is the better word when you first arrived in Vietnam. I'm fairly certain that was not something that you'd done before. So tell us a little bit about that.
I was dumb. I got to tell you, I was going into this I landed in Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base in Saigon on my 21st birthday.
No
So I want
way.
you to think back to who you were at 21.
Or just think of my daughter who lives upstairs right now.
Just nothing. You don't know anything. I thought of this as sort of a great adventure. The women that went all had different reasons, obviously.
Okay.
I was not a patriot zealot. I had protested the war. I had been tear gassed in protest. But when this opportunity came, it was like, let me see what's real, because you and I both know what is portrayed frequently is not real. And I was just, this is a great adventure. And that was what my brain set was. So when I landed at Tan Son Nhut, I just remember the heat and the smells. The smells of in the streets. Then they had these little 2-cycle motorcycles, and they ran on kerosene or something. So the smell of the gas and all of that, but the heat and the humidity was amazing. Coming from Michigan, come on now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that. Yeah. I can't, again, I'm imagining my 21-year-old daughter that lives upstairs doing something like this. And what was the pull initially? What was besides this great adventure, how did you find yourself there?
Well, the criteria to become a Donut Dolly was you had to be a college graduate. So most of the women were all 22, 21, 25, 26. give or take. I was a teacher, and there were
Okay.
no jobs for teachers. So
Huh.
in the old days, pre-generation, I know that many people listening don't know this, but there was something called the Yellow Pages. And I
Yes.
went
Oh,
in
yes.
there.
Let your fingers do the
And,
walking.
oh, yeah. And so I went to social service organizations and thought, I'll try this. And did the Red Cross and did a couple interviews. Of course, they weren't like this one. You had to go someplace.
Yeah.
And went to Washington, I think. And anyway, eventually got selected. And there were women from all over the country.
Yeah.
And primarily white women. There were a few black women. But I don't remember Latina women, but that was the criteria. You just had to be a college graduate.
Okay. A college graduate. And you would, I think in my head, would these soldiers know, oh my gosh, today's our day that we get to play some games. The Donut Dollies are coming through. Like, was it something that they knew was happening before you could land?
Yeah, there was coordination with that. And we frequently went back to the same fire bases. Depending on enemy activity in the area,
Yeah.
or what the unit was doing at that time.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We often hear about the red flags we should avoid, right? But what if we focus more on looking for green flags, right? In friends, in partners. If you're not sure what they look like, guess what? Therapy can help you identify those green flags. Actively practice them in your relationships and embody the green flag energy yourself. So, whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself, it is time to form relationships that love you back. I have benefited tremendously from therapy over the last 20 years of my life, and I promise you, you will benefit from it as well. Guess what? BetterHelp gives you all the benefits of therapy, and it's entirely online, making therapy affordable, convenient, and serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Easily switch therapists at any time at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/humanhope today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/humanhope. Okay, there obviously is, I think a conversation like this could be like, oh, well, tell us about how you just inspired all the soldiers and the GIs and, all of this, fluffy warmness of the idea. But there's obviously a human cost at war, right? That like you're still in, even though the war was winding up, you were in war.
Yep.
And you said in particularly that war changed your outlook on life. Tell me, how did your time in Vietnam alter the way you just see the world in general, even up to today?
Well, it's very short. The gift that we've been given is incredibly, incredibly short. I mean, I would go to a fire base there, and I'd go back and I'd say, "Where's Joe?" Who I'd had a banter with the week before, and Joe was dead. Joe was gone, and so when I left, I'm going to back up a little bit. When I left Vietnam, I was not well. Okay? I was not well. I was very cynical. I came back. My family didn't know what to do with me. I couldn't carry on a normal conversation. Everything was inane. It was sort of I just was not well. And so I took off again, and a number of other, as GIs did and as Donut Dollies did, and I spent a year in Europe. Don't tell my kids, but I was a hippie. And, a little hitchhiking around Europe and a few adventures there. And so I healed that way, because now it would be called PTSD. And when I compare that, please, to all the folks out there, the military folks who have experienced real PTSD, it wasn't anything like that. It was just, I didn't fit any place. So war changes you in the sense that the things that you think are priorities are no longer priorities anymore. If there's, there was a movie called Hurt Locker that talked about that in the next generation, right? He came back and he couldn't carry on. It was not normal, everything. So that was a piece of it. And so then you can move through that, and then you get to the gratitude for every day, which is one of the things that attracts me to you and to your philosophy is you find joy, you find gratitude, you find in the smallest things, you turn, hot water. I had a shower. Oh,
Go figure.
I had a shower today. Whereas, most of the world doesn't have that. I got to tell you, if you travel at all, you know that that's not a commonality, right?
Yeah.
So I moved through all these years and luckily had a family and many, many different kinds of jobs and been blessed so often. And trying to be aware of that, the recognition of blessings.
Yeah.
That's where I am right now. And luckily I've got health right now, and I'm taken off to Mexico on Sunday, and I travel and I do, so I'm so blessed. But I just read a statistic the other day that 1/3 of the Vietnam veterans, that's all that's left.
Really?
That's all that's left. 1/3 of us. And the Donut Dollies as well, obviously, we're old, and so that in and itself is going to take you. But the stress of that experience, I think, took a lot of people much earlier. We lost just 3 women, not just 3, but 3 women. One to an illness, one was murdered, and one was killed in a Jeep accident.
Okay.
So nobody was killed in actual combat or from the enemy per se.
Yeah. Do people, is it bothersome, or is it just something that maybe you've thought of often or not often, just that people maybe don't consider Donut Dollies and the sacrifice that they really made as like part of the war, like a veteran, or is that difficult? Is that something that you had to work through at all?
You get your stuff, you get your good stuff in other ways. So that outside recognition, it would be nice, but it's like the GIs that didn't get their due when they came home at all.
Yeah.
There is a bill in Congress now to recognize the Vietnam veteran, Vietnam Donut Dollies gold medal. And but it's been around for a while. I'm not sure that it'll go through.
Yeah.
I guess the concern, there were 627 of us that served. There were about over 10,000 nurses that served, when you talk about women who served in the war.
Yes.
And we're all slipping away. And it bothers me that generation and that experience of war, because, you talk about the what am I trying to say? The disconnect, the difficulties between people now. Boy, talk about generations, Thanksgiving dinners where, if you're not a patriot, love it or leave it sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the other people that were saying, no, this war is unjust.
Wow.
At the same dinner table, just as we have today, red and blue, whatever it is. So, it's slipping away, and I worry that it's almost going to be like the Civil War once we're all gone.
Really?
And I don't want that, because there's so much to learn from that experience, not just the Donut Dollies, but war in and of itself, and how we get there, and who makes the decision, and who actually goes to war. Of course, now it's more, there's drone wars, but
sure.
Anyway, this was a people war.
Yeah, no, it was a people war. And when you mention it, I do feel like eyes and even the lineage and historical context of the Vietnam War is kind of glossed over when it comes to wars, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, you got your world wars, and of course we're remembering those things, and then we've got Desert Storm, and you've got everything that happened there in the 90s. But like the Vietnam War, my uncle was a Vietnam War veteran, died of cancer because of something that happened in the Vietnam War, and he used to tell me, he was like, Carlos, we feel like the forgotten soldiers. We feel like the. Why do you think that is? Why do you what is it about the Vietnam War specifically that you feel like it makes it so easy for people to just?
Well, coming back, it was the baby killers. There was such a shift. So the face of the war was this 18-year-old, 20-year-old GI that got off the plane and their protesters there, calling them names. So we wanted to forget about it. We had made this terrible mistake, and we wanted to we wanted to forget about it. And so that's why they glossed it over, and they didn't recognize that all those folks that served and the folks that came back, they got out of their uniforms as soon as they could. They wanted that part of, and you can't bury that part, and that's why so many folks of the front lines. Now you've got to remember that the grunts, which is the infantry, there was one grunt and 10 people in the rear supporting that person. So there were a lot of folks in Vietnam that were not out in the boonies, were not at fire bases. They were fixing helicopters or cooking or, in the office or whatever. But it all changed them in some way or another. That experience changed everybody. The folks that were in the patties, the rice paddies, and what they saw and felt and experienced, they should always be kept in mind, so that maybe it'll stop something in the future.
Yeah. Typical children's vitamins are basically candy in disguise, filled with 2 teaspoons of sugar, unhealthy chemicals, and other gummy additives growing kids should never eat. That's why Haya was created, a super-powered chewable vitamin. Now listen, while many children's vitamins are filled with 5 grams of sugar, which is known to contribute to a variety of health issues, Haya is made with 0 sugar and 0 gummy additives. Yet it tastes amazing, and listen, your picky eaters are going to love it. Every single batch is third-party tested for heavy metals, microbiomes, and in a qualified GMP-compliant lab using scientifically validated testing methods. So you know that the product is going to be safe for your kids. Okay. Are you tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens? Well, guess what? Haya now has Kids Daily Greens Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any other non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. We've worked out a special deal with Haya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you got to go to hayahealth.com/humanhope. This deal is not available on their regular website. Go to hayahealth.com/humanhope and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. It's sobering to hear you talk about that. And also kind of leads my mind into something that you said a second ago about how, right now as we see so much division and disconnection and polarization around, really everything. I mean, people can now become polarized over like what pizza they like. Like suddenly like there's entire like forums of users on Facebook that are hating each other because you like sausage on your pizza or something. But you talk about how, back in the 70s and 60s, there was just as much division and polarization at dinner tables in conversations. Take me here. What could maybe people that feel like if someone says to you, we're more divided than we've ever been, what does Anne say back to that person?
I would say, even though those of us who are not mathematicians,
yes,
think of a Venn diagram where you've got these 2 circles and what's in the middle. There are so many things that we agree on. People want a better life for their kids.
Yeah.
Who disagrees with that, right?
Right.
Okay. So let's start from a place where where we can agree on something.
Yes.
And then maybe let's take it out a little bit from there and lower the volume of it a little bit.
Yeah.
All this Monday morning quarterbacking, and they did this, and we've got these terrible fires going on now, and everybody's saying it's this fault and that fault. I'm thinking, let's get to a place where we say, we got some issues. Let's learn from this experience. That if we can learn from it, because I was a teacher. That's it.
Yeah.
So you don't know something, and always the operative word is yet. I don't know how to do the quadratic equation yet. All right, let's get to that place where the yet kicks in.
Yes. No, I love that. Get to the place where the yet kicks in. You said that you've been impacted by a book by Kristen Hanna called
The Women.
The Women. Talk to us about that book and just the impact it's had in your life.
Well, what's interesting about that book is it brought up lots of folks who had forgotten about the war and how many women were in that. Now, Donut Dollies, I think, are mentioned about twice in there.
Okay.
So it's not it's all about nursing and nurses.
Sure.
And I say there were over 10,000 nurses serving there. But what it's gotten the conversation started again, that's the piece that's really interesting to me. There's another book called Goodnight, Irene by Luis Alberto Urrea, and which is about his mother. It's fictionalized, but it's his mother who served with the Red Cross, actually serving donuts and coffee in World War II.
Oh.
And her adventure, excellent book here. I'm going to show it to you.
Yeah, please. Okay.
Can you see that?
I see it perfectly. Good night, Irene.
Good night, Irene. Yep. So,
yeah.
So there's at least it's brought the conversation back, and that I do appreciate. And I've been asked to speak at high schools and a couple of other spots as well. Our job is to learn. That's it. Every day I want to learn something. Sometimes I'm the teacher, and sometimes I'm the learner. Most of the time I'm the learner, especially as I get older. I'm learning and learning and learning how to plug in my headset onto this computer. But I did it.
You did it. Oh, no. I mean, it looks like you've got your own podcast studio set up over there, Anne.
There you go.
I would, it looks really good. What is, I love this. You know, to be a learner, to be curious. Again, that is it within my whole empathy framework. It's curiosity leads to empathy. Empathy leads to trust. Trust to relationship to change. It all starts with learning. It all starts with being open and curious. So I'm going to ask you this. What is Anne curious about these days? What is leading your curiosity these days?
Well, I still work part-time, and I do. I was a high school principal, and so now I coach school administrators. So I have to understand what's going on in education today. I have to understand the effect of AI on education, which is really cool.
Oh man!
And what the job of a principal now is very different than when I was a principal. And schools are being asked to do so much and they have so many limited resources. So trying to stay up to date. So I continue to be curious on just being open to what can I learn today about that part of my life. I've got grandkids that teach me things all the time. The world through the eyes of a 5-year-old is my granddaughter said the other day, Nona, you're going to have a last day one of these days. So we're driving in the car. This is one of those backseat conversations.
Yeah.
I'm going, wow, where did that come from? Which was a good reminder. I said, yes, absolutely. I hope it's a long way after your wedding. But yes, I'm going to have a last day. And thank you for the reminder.
Absolutely. I love that. Being curious. You have to keep being curious in order to, in order to stay human, right? Like, actually, like I heard yesterday, somebody sent me a text because they'd seen a thing about curiosity that I talked about. And they said, did you know that one of the actual signs of suicide, possible suicide for teenagers, really even adults these days, is a lack and a losing of curiosity, a losing of a desire to be curious. And I do feel like curiosity is something that is so important for us to continue to live, continue to grow, just as kind of you have showed us. Now, are there ways for people to, people, this is what's going to happen. People are going to listen to this. They're already curious and they're like, okay, wait a second, Carlos, this is not near long enough. We need 3 hours with Anne, please. Are there more stories of the Donut Dolly places?
There's a couple on YouTube, so just do your YouTube thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. And there are some books that Donut Dollies have written that are available out there. I don't have them with me right now. Probably I'd start with the YouTube. Just put that in there, and it'll
put that in there, and it'll come up.
Lots of pictures.
Okay, some pictures are on there and videos, and when I was doing a little research before, I found the Donut Dolly's website. It was donutdollies.com. And there's already so many cool pictures of just all these. I'm looking at these GIs sitting at a picnic table with their smokes and their beer and their carton of milk. And then the Donut Dollies in their
Little
uniforms.
blue uniforms, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's funny because I'm looking at these GIs and these, young women, and I'm like, why is it that all the hipsters in Nashville, Tennessee right now that are 20 years old look just like you guys did back in 1968?
Oh, yeah. Every time I do a Zoom, like today, I look at it going, who is that old lady? Who is that? Because in your heart and there's an age you pick that you get
Sure.
to stay at, and
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. So I'm not
Oh, well,
necessarily
no.
20, but
Yeah,
a little bit older
yeah.
than that.
No, that's so good. I just am, I think I'm not only inspired by your story and curious about your story, but what I love is that you're, at 75, you're still being curious. I do, so my mom is 72, my dad's 82, and and so like I'm in this season now, right? I'm 51.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in this season right now where when I have a conversation with someone like you, I get so inspired. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, like I've got way more white hair on my face now than I have black hair on my face. But I still have an opportunity to be curious and to learn and to grow. And you're just inspiring me. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Thank you for the gift of this opportunity to talk a little bit about that experience and those 627 women that
627
between
women.
65 and 72.
Yeah,
1965 and 1972.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service and bringing the smiles to people that really desperately needed it. I am just grateful. I'm grateful that you filled out the application. I'm grateful that you shared your story.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful to have a new friend and Ann.
Absolutely. I come to Nashville. I got 2 daughters that live in Nashville. Had to
Get out
escape
of here.
California because they couldn't afford a house. I know, you watch Nate Bargatze and he says, don't come to Nashville. I go, yeah. I understand. But anyway, I do come visit your fair city and love it. And
well, you're going to have to let me know when you come back because I want to take you to coffee to have more off the record conversations. This has been so good.
I'd love it.
That was amazing. And thank you so much. Oh my gosh. These are going to be awesome. Hey, let's get a little bit of that classical music back in here. Here we go. These are going to be so good. I'm so excited. You guys aren't going to want to miss next week another human that you've never heard of that you get to learn from, that we all get to learn from. What do you guys think? Is this fun? Is this a great new format? I'm excited about it. I hope you are too. Listen, I know one thing, that curiosity leads to empathy. Empathy leads to trust. Trust leads to relationship. Relationship needs to change. And I know many of us want change in our lives. We want change in other people's lives. We want change in our country. We want change on this planet. The only way to get to that change is beginning with curiosity. And I really, really think that these conversations are going to help us get to exactly that spot. Thanks for hanging out with me. Please subscribe, share the podcast. We'll see you next week on another episode of Human School.